We're all excited about customer agent. I want to make sure you get the most amount of ROI out of your customer agent interactions and you create the best experience for your customers. In doing that, there's a couple things that you need to consider before you press the on button for your customer agent. First off is, how are you going to be using this? You need to understand how you're going to be using customer agent and what the expectations your customers are going to have. Do you sell a service that requires status updates? Do you have a product that just requires some FAQs and helpful information? You got to understand your customers and what the typical responses and questions are. So preemptively, before you start turning on these agents, a really easy thing you can do is you could export a list of your tickets. You could look at those tickets overall and figure out what the general inquiries are. If you are AI forward, you can take that list of tickets, remove any sensitive information, and put that into deep research in Google Gemini. And you could say, give me the insights and the similarities for these support inquiries and create some frequently asked questions that can help us identify what the answers are. By doing that, you're going to get a list of FAQs that your team can work through to make sure that you've got good, fresh content. So that's the first one. The second one is you need to think about digging into understanding the current nature of the content the customer agent is going to review. This is very familiar for folks like me. We go in and do website audits and assessments to understand where content fits in the buyer's journey. Most of the time, our customers haven't really thought about that when they start considering their site. Well, the kicker is your customer agent is going to use your website for the answer. And unfortunately, the opposing force of that is typically companies spend a lot of time in the funnel and they spend a little bit of time in the bottom of the funnel. When we start considering the information that will be helpful for your customers, you are going to have a customer agent that doesn't have the relevant information necessary to drive the content. If you're paying for each click or conversation, which you will be, then you need to make sure those engagements and questions have the right answers. And it can create a really negative experience quickly. When you consider the consumer and the overall transition, people have a high expectation of chat and AI, especially if you are using it instead of customer interaction, which is one of the compelling ways you could use customer agent. When you consider the content on your website, make sure you've got a good distribution of bottom of the funnel content. Even though Service Hub is not required to use customer agent, we highly recommend it. You can have a frequently asked questions area of your knowledge base. You can create and build out your knowledge base in Service Hub so that you can offset the website content that's available right now that is more top of the funnel and more information-based. The questions you're going to be getting, while some may be information-based, you're going to get customers that are interested in questions that answer their problems, and they will get frustrated very quickly because of the expectation. This reminds me back in the day when conversational marketing came out, and everyone was like, sweet, I'm just going to put a chatbot on my website, and the chatbot is going to ask the same questions as my forms. They were really upset when folks were fine with filling out a form, but they weren't fine with filling out the same information and not getting a response in chat. It's because as consumers, we expect it to be different. If you fill out a form, you probably expect to get a response in days, not minutes. When you fill out a chatbot, you expect to have the answer available and be talking to a human or an AI right away, right? When we think of the feedback loop that needs to happen in regards to getting an answer, that's really important. It's easy to say, let's turn on customer agent, but it's really important that you have the human backup, especially when you start this off, to make sure that they give the right answer in the customer agent. And so that you can build out that content live so that it can get better over time. So make sure you dedicate a human to be the one that answers the questions. It could be your support staff. It could be several humans. But if you use the chat flow and you make sure you set up the right handoff within your customer agent and some of those key terms that you know the content is missing based on the overall information that's available on your website, you're going to be able to create a good experiment for setting up your customer agent and at the same time not be negative on the overall experience overall. Now, before you tout to the world that you have an AI customer service agent, give it some time. Make sure you are focused on the value for the customer and that you're giving them access and availability to the information, and it is a net positive before you announce to everyone that you have a customer agent. I've seen a couple people announce that they have a new AI customer agent, and everyone gets curious and fills out the chatbot to get answers. And you know what that just did? That just cost you money because you announced that you have it. The best customer agent is one that no one realizes is a customer agent. The best customer agent is one that no one realizes is a customer agent, right? This is the magic of AI, where we put so much emphasis on the shiny thing, but we need to make it so that people don't even realize that it's AI in the first place. That's the experience and the goalpost that you need to put up when you're setting up customer agent. How do we make it so that they didn't even realize that it was AI in the first place? My disclaimer is, in California, you have to identify that something's AI, the chatbot, or not a real human, as I think it's the CCPA. But that's already happening within the UI of the HubSpot chat. Just make it so that you focus on the overall experience as well. Okay, the final thing is targeting. If you have a high amount of website traffic, you need to consider the segment of the users that you're going to be able to go after. There's a couple things to consider. If you don't have a lot of bottom of the funnel content or support-based content out of the gate, then you need to consider not having your AI customer agent available for customers. I know that sounds a little weird, but you do need to make sure that you're paying attention to the different segments and how the users overall would be affected. So with that, if you focus on your segmentation, let's assume you have a really good knowledge base and you have helpful information that is available for your customers. Great. The best way to do that right now is the chat flow beta for customer agent. You're going to request that in your HubSpot portal, and the chat flow beta for customer agent you're going to enable. And just like you would set up a chat flow for a live chat or a rule-based back and forth, you can set up a customer agent chat flow, and that will allow for you to have targeting. This is huge. The targeting is huge. It is arguably one of the most important things about customer agent right now. The first thing I want you to do when you set up your targeting for your chat flow is, if you're in the United States, make it limited to the country of the United States. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to consider, do you want this to be known for only contacts that are known in the system or for everyone in the world? Now, the reason I say that is this is going to cost you for every single conversation. And the value is definitely there, but how do you make sure that your audience is the most valuable segment possible? That's the thing you got to double down on when you think about targeting. You can set it to be for anonymous folks. You could set it to be for a certain segment. One of the things I would recommend if you're in experimentation mode and you don't have a lot of the customer side of the content is you have target accounts in your portal. I would imagine that you might be using journey orchestration. And if you aren't and you don't know what those two things are, you should reach out to the folks at Impulse. We can help you out. Set up your target accounts and anyone at those accounts to be the list that would show up for this customer agent. This will allow you to have the folks that are key for lead acquisition for your business to get this AI chatbot that could be informational in regards to how to find the information on your website. It's like, how much does a website cost? And it could be actual real stuff. And that could be really engaging overall. So think target accounts, think smaller segment of customers, and then also think about how much traffic you're going to be getting to your website. If you look at the broadness of this customer agent, you can make it segmented to only be on your service pages, for instance, or only on particular pages or segments of your site. That can be really compelling and useful. But one of the things you got to consider is, one of the values of customer agent is that it can give information that traverses the entire brand or brands. You can't have a customer agent specific to one brand if you have multiple in your portal today, but you can limit so the customer agent only shows up on certain domains. And so this is where you could start to really play with the targeting. If you have the right handoff and the right targeting, you're going to get a really good idea quickly about what kind of usage you can do. What I would recommend is that you have someone that you dedicate to paying attention to the usage overall. Usage can be measured in your accounts and billing area of your HubSpot portal. You'll be able to see that. And remember that a conversation from customer agent costs 100 credits, comes out to about $1. And so if you're keeping daily tabs on and you have the right targeting, you should get a good idea of how much traffic or how much of the segment and how much activity you'll get over a day, a week, a month, period. It's really important to have your finger on the pulse of this. And if you don't have the time, you need to hire an agency that's able to do that for you. I look at deploying customer agent as a very similar way that you would deploy a pay-per-click ad campaign, right? You're going to put out your criteria in regards to who the audience should be. You're going to put out what you expect the content that would be in that particular ad, or in this case, your knowledge base or the information that the customer agent would have access to. And then you're going to give it some kind of a mental budget. Now, today you can't put a budget or a cap on customer agent in regards to how much engagement happens. So what you do have to do, that means you got to babysit a little bit. But if you babysit that over the first day and you look at where you're at, the goal would be to understand if you have it broken up by segment or targeted based on a particular area. Anybody who came to the Impulse Creative website that is from the United States as our criteria, if you have analytics on US-based people that came to the Impulse Creative website and you know that number, great. If you don't, create a reporting segment, then look at how much engagement you have on your customer agent chat flow. In my experience, you're going to see a 1 to 10% conversion rate on that engagement from those chats, right? Folks get chat engagement significantly more than form conversions when you start thinking about conversational marketing. We have some landing pages that were as high as 40% for engagement, depending on how targeted the traffic was. So when you consider the engagement rate of these chat flows, that's going to be important for you to understand how much customer agent is going to cost you. The value and the beauty overall is you're going to be able to, after a day, a week, a month, reflect and project some of that usage overall. You'll also be able to see it connected to some conversions that happen. The reporting is a piece for another day. Reporting is something that's going to be a little bit harder to keep track of. Chat flows and conversations are not the easiest thing to kind of fit into a buyer's journey as far as reporting goes in HubSpot. I hope that they improve that soon. And I don't believe that it'll count as conversion on page because technically it's an iframe, but you should be able to keep track of things with some custom events too. The reality is it's a significant opportunity for you and your business. Even wearing the HubSpot shirt today, just to reinforce, if you want to deploy customer agent and you're not sure on specifically how, or you're like, Remington, you went through a lot of stuff and I think I need some help, the team at Impulse is able to help you out. We've got a link in the description or the first comment to a service for deploying customer agent. And it includes going through your FAQs and doing an audit. It includes helping you create content around FAQs and more bottom of the funnel content if you need it. It also includes babysitting that customer agent once it starts rolling in. So happy to help you out. But if not, you've got all the tools necessary to hit the deploy button